Why did elite Wehrmacht units massively switch to captured American armored vehicles? For survival. During the North African campaign, German soldiers systematically seized and operated American M3 personnel carriers. The trend stretched from the desert sands all the way to the dense forests of the Western Front. German troops ignored their own supply lines. They found American half-tracks. They kept them. Frontline squads physically erased the original markings. Soldiers painted thick black crosses over the American white stars. Infantrymen quickly climbed into the open rectangular cargo beds. A commercial 148 horsepower white engine rumbled to life under a freshly painted German emblem. The Panzer Grenadier doctrine demanded mechanized speed. The Wehrmacht positioned the armored half-track at the core of their tactical advances. They possessed the Sd.Kfz 251. This specialized vehicle featured 14.5 millimeters of sloped frontal armor. The American M3 offered a mere 6.3 millimeters of completely flat steel. The enemy consciously embraced a technical downgrade. The Sd.Kfz 251 was built strictly for assaults. The M3 was nothing more than an armored truck. On paper, the German machine dominated every metric. It featured an intricate interleaved suspension designed for rough terrain. It weighed 8.5 tons. It carried elite squads straight into direct fire. The M3 was a basic transport. American troops called it the Purple Heart Box. The armor plates were dangerously thin. The roof did not exist. Men inside knew they were vulnerable. Yet German soldiers consistently abandoned their sophisticated Maybach engines whenever they secured an American transport. The military command demanded engineering perfection. The front line simply demanded immediate availability. Complex German suspensions frequently collapsed in the abrasive desert sand. The primitive American commercial chassis kept moving forward. Technical superiority lost all value without actual vehicles on the ground. Elite divisions stopped waiting for their advanced domestic production. They chose someone else's. The future of mechanized warfare was actually forged on the assembly lines of civilian transport trucks. Where exactly did the Wehrmacht secure so many abandoned trophies? American factories delivered 53,000 produced vehicles. The United States automotive sector had already built over 3 million civilian cars in 1941 alone. This existing commercial infrastructure provided a ready-made manufacturing foundation for the new transports. Instead of designing complex custom hardware, planners utilized what already existed. Bare civilian chassis moved down conveyor belts, receiving basic steel armor plates simultaneously across 4 different plants. Identical standardized parts flowed continuously from the production lines of White, Autocar, Diamond T, and International Harvester. At the core of this pragmatic design sat the reliable 148 horsepower White engine. Assembly scaled without any specialized retooling because the parts remained mechanically simple. Each American armored formation received 433 personnel carriers per division to keep troops alongside the heavy tanks. 53,000 American half-tracks against the entire output of German manufacturing. 53,000 against 15,000. How did the infantry behind the 1940 France Blitzkrieg move? In unarmored trucks. American assembly lines stamped out M3 half-tracks. Production reached tens of thousands. Germany struggled. German industry produced only 15,000 Sd.Kfz 251 models. The Sd.Kfz 251 was a propaganda star. It looked futuristic. Panzer Grenadier battalions rode them in newsreels. The underlying design was intricate. It featured the shock-to-loft overlapping suspension. This exact engineering choice proved fatal. The complex suspension took 3 times longer to build. Field maintenance required 3 times the physical effort. Production lagged far behind the American chassis. Precision engineering crushed output volume. German factories could not build enough. The math failed. Logistics collapsed. Most frontline soldiers never saw a half-track. Even elite units faced severe shortages. Reality was grim. Over-engineered armor created a massive logistical void. The armored Panzer Grenadier remained an empty illusion. Infantry battalions rolled into heavy combat exposed. They rode to the front in the beds of unarmored Opel Blitz trucks. General Omar Bradley scrutinized the incoming combat reports, witnessing the grim consequences of a tactical error by the frontline infantry. He reviewed the files. The initial data arrived from the Pacific Theater in 1941. Early engagements quickly revealed that the half-track provided necessary mobility, but direct combat exposed severe engineering vulnerabilities. However, the soldiers deployed across North Africa despised this American machine, heavily criticizing a design fundamentally rooted in a commercial truck chassis. The open-topped compartment left infantrymen entirely exposed to overhead artillery bursts and incoming mortar shrapnel. Rifle bullets rang out sharply, punching clean through the thin side armor during close-quarters engagements. The flat floor plates offered almost zero protection against buried landmines detonating beneath the tracks. Soldiers recognized the danger. They labeled the vehicle the Purple Heart Box. German anti-tank crews studied these exact weaknesses, briefing their frontline gunners to target the vulnerable side panels. Bradley maintained in his post-war assessments that the half-track was a highly competent and dependable contrivance. He argued that mounting casualties stemmed entirely from tactical command errors rather than inherent design flaws. Troops repeatedly misused the platform, driving directly into entrenched anti-tank positions instead of dismounting before the firefight began. The baseline truth remained hidden. First reports from the Philippines documented critical armor weaknesses and mechanical failures. How did advanced engineering lose to a primitive box? The answer lies strictly in factory standardization. The German Sd.Kfz 251 featured complex sloped armor plates. The American M3 relied on basic rectangular geometry. On the Eastern Front, mechanics dictated survival. Deep Russian mud swallowed tracks whole. The German vehicle utilized interleaved road wheels. Heavy mud packed tightly between these overlapping steel discs. Overnight, temperatures often dropped below zero. The wet dirt froze into solid concrete. The complex suspension locked completely. Crews spent hours chipping ice from the steel tracks. Yet in forward motion, the overlapping wheels offered superior traction. Sloped plates deflected incoming rifle fire. Panzer grenadiers trained to fight from within the hull. Adapting the German chassis demanded precision. Engineers drafted entirely new blueprints for every modification. Factories halted entire assembly lines for retooling. It cost time. Germany lacked time. American adaptation was bluntly primitive. The M3 remained a simple, open box. Workers directly bolted new weapon modules to the flat steel floor. They installed mortars. They fitted guns. The basic chassis remained entirely untouched. Assembly lines never stopped. No redesigns, no delays. Production numbers dictated the tactical reality. A standard United States armored division required over 400 half-tracks. American factories assembled more than 40,000 M3 units. German industry produced roughly 15,000 Sd.Kfz 251s. Most German infantry units never received them. Propaganda films showed highly mechanized Panzer grenadiers. Reality meant marching on foot. The crude American vehicle dominated logistics. Every single armored infantry regiment deployed them. Every rifle squad got a ride. The flat sides offered poor protection. The open top invited falling shrapnel, yet they reached the front lines in massive numbers. American infantry pushed forward inside the M3, keeping exact pace alongside charging Sherman tanks. A machine engineered to defend against Luftwaffe aircraft, eventually transformed into the primary ground weapon for clearing French forest belts. The flat-sided geometry of the M3 hull accommodated artillery calibers ranging from 81mm mortars to 105mm howitzers. Ordnance teams bolted baseplates directly onto the steel floorboards. But the most significant mechanical evolution arrived with the M16 multiple gun motor carriage modification. An electric drive system rotated the heavy turret assembly across a full 360-degree arc. 4 heavy Browning M2 machine guns, chambered in 12.7 millimeters, aligned their barrels with the distant Normandy tree line. The operator depressed the triggers, initiating a synchronized firing sequence. A deafening roar of overlapping detonations erupted at a sustained rate of 2,000 rounds per minute. The kinetic energy generated by the 12.7 millimeter projectile allowed it to pierce 19 millimeters of solid steel armor at 500 meters. The platform entered active combat service in early 1944, weighing nearly 10 metric tons. German troops operating in Normandy quickly named the vehicle the Krautmauer, or meat chopper. The heavy rounds shattered wooden hedgerows and tore through light vehicle plating without losing velocity. The concentrated suppression fire swept across entire fields at 2,000 rounds per minute without the need for precise aiming at individual soldiers. How to judge 50,000 vehicles when one kill spawns replacements? Wehrmacht engineers lacked protocols for such volumes. Their testing methods proved useless. Captured units faced strict technical inspection. They logged every flaw. The floor armor proved thin. Overhead artillery posed a constant threat. Yet individual weaknesses meant nothing. 50,000 armored machines advanced across France simultaneously. Total German wartime tank production barely reached 49,000 units. Normandy defenders destroyed a target. Gaps never formed. Gunners fired. More vehicles appeared. Then another. Tactics failed. Despite all design flaws, the front line absorbed a continuous mass of logistic metal. Why did the Allied forces capture Paris faster than the Wehrmacht could deploy reserve units? Allied infantry advanced across the terrain on armored transports faster than the German command could process the tactical reality. This logistical mathematics of the M3 Halftrack systematically dismantled the concept of the German blitzkrieg doctrine. It permanently deprived the Wehrmacht of its primary strategic resource. Every single American armored division, consisting of nearly 11,000 men, maintained full mechanized mobility. Meanwhile, the very doctrine that shattered France in 1940 required specific vehicles that German industry failed to supply. Dry Wehrmacht statistics exposed the grim reality on the ground. Only one Panzer Grenadier battalion out of 4 actually moved on armored half-tracks, while the rest traveled in ordinary, unprotected trucks. German soldiers painted stark black Balkenkreuz crosses directly over the white stars of captured M3s to avoid friendly fire. They attempted to execute the original German blitzkrieg doctrine while sitting inside American half-tracks, simply because the factories of the Third Reich completely failed their production plans. How did a utilitarian tractor become the face of European liberation? Through total availability to any Allied unit. On August 24, 1944, La Nueve Company stormed occupied Paris riding American M3 half-tracks. This 9th Armored Company operated entirely on United States organizational tables. This strict standardization unified Free French logistics with the broader American military. Spanish exiles manned the controls. They painted white letters across the olive drab armor, naming their machines after past battlefields: Guernica, Teruel, Resistance, Guadalajara. The M3 was not a ceremonial choice. It represented the cold mechanical reality of the Allied advance, a mass-produced platform driving an offensive across a continent. The city had endured 4 years of German occupation. Now its 2 million residents watch standardized steel roll through the streets. On August 26th, Charles de Gaulle strode down the Champs-Élysées. 4 M3 half-tracks pushed through the dense crowds to escort his command call. 6 millimeters of side armor. Those exact machines escorting the column held fundamental flaws. The floor plating offered minimal mine protection. The troop compartment remained completely open. Mortar shrapnel easily found the crew. Complaints were valid. German engineers mocked these physical weaknesses. They missed it. The American vehicle was entirely modular. It carried 13 men. Top speed reached 72 kilometers per hour. Mechanics adapted it. In the dirt, crews unboxed heavy quad mounts. They bolted 4 machine guns directly to the chassis. They prepared before the French bocage battles. Gunners shredded the thick hedgerows. The engine delivered 140 horsepower. Heated metal from anti-aircraft mounts smelled sharp. Brass piled up. The steel chassis absorbed the heavy recoil. Logistics ignored engineering elegance. Volume 1. Early on, its nickname predicted quick oblivion. Soldiers called it the Purple Heart Box. But volume erased all design deficits. Lost tracks were replaced in days. Math 1. Production lines ran day and night. United States assembly lines flooded the continent with over 40,000 units, while German manufacturing struggled to deliver 15,000. Why did Israeli mechanics keep these machines running until 1973? M3 Halftracks drove straight into the 1948 War of Independence. They fought the Suez Crisis. Then came the Yom Kippur War. The logic of a cheap modular platform survived the Second World War. The open chassis allowed crews to mount any weapon without rebuilding the frame. Workshops strapped heavy 20mm cannons and recoilless rifles onto a chassis engineered in the 1940s strictly for light machine guns. The suspension held the weight. The frame absorbed the recoil. This modular concept shaped the next generation of infantry transport. It formed the foundation for the post-war M113 carrier. Factories later assembled over 80,000 units for armies worldwide. A half-track, officially obsolete by 1945, rolled onto the battlefield against modern Soviet armor in 1973.